You have a photo you love, a person standing in front of a plain wall in the soft light of late afternoon, and you want one small thing different. Put them on a beach instead. Keep the face, the pose, the jacket, the exact expression. Just swap the wall for an ocean. Now think about what you are really asking. You are not asking the AI to paint a beach. You are asking it to paint a beach and change nothing else. And that turns out to be a completely different and much harder problem than making a picture from scratch. Last time we watched an AI paint by starting from pure static and walking it, step by step, toward a picture your words describe. That is generation. It is free to invent everything. This time the canvas is not blank. It is your photo and most of it is sacred. Today is about control. How you stop the AI from guessing and make it do exactly what you mean and only that. Let us name the difference precisely because it is the key to the whole episode. Generation starts from nothing, pure noise and a free hand. Every pixel is up for grabs, so there is nothing to betray, nothing to preserve. Editing is the opposite. Editing is generation with a hostage. You hand the model a real image and say, change this one thing and leave everything I did not mention untouched. The face has to stay the same face. The shadows have to still fall the right way. That preservation demand is the entire difficulty. And here is the honest twist that runs under everything today. Most of these tools are not doing surgery on your pixels. Under the hood, they regenerate the picture, conditioned on the one you gave them, and they have simply been trained to keep most of it the same. Preservation is a learned habit, not a guarantee, which is exactly why early editors drifted, why a face would come back subtly wrong. So almost every tool we look at today is one idea wearing different clothes. Take that denoising walk from last time, the one that turned static into a picture and put fences around it. Tell it where it may roam and where it absolutely may not. Steer the walk. That is control. And there is one more piece worth holding onto, because it is the bridge from the painting engine to editing a real photo. When you run that walk on its straight, deterministic setting, it does not only go forward from noise to picture. You can run it backwards. Hand it a real photograph and it can retrace the steps to recover, very closely, the static it would have started from to paint that image. The recovery is approximate. A tiny error creeps in at each step, but it lands close. Once you have that noise, the noise behind your photo, you nudge it a little and walk forward again, and out comes very nearly the same picture with your one change. Find the noise behind a real image, then push. That single trick is quietly underneath a lot of what follows. Start with the tool you already have. Words. The prompt is your steering wheel, and we saw last time it is a surprisingly strong one. There is even a knob, the same guidance dial from the painting episode, classifier-free guidance, that decides how hard the model leans into your words versus its own instincts. Turn it up and the picture clamps harder to the prompt. And there is a second, underrated channel right next to it, the negative prompt. You can tell the model not only what you want, but what you do not want, and it will actively steer away from it. Picture two forces on the denoising walk. One pulls the picture toward your prompt, and the other pushes it away from a thing you named, like the word blurry itself, so the result drifts toward sharp. You can even vary how hard those forces pull as the walk goes on, leaning in early to lock down the big shapes, easing off later so fine detail can breathe. But for all that, words are a blunt instrument, and you have felt this. Ask for a person in a specific, exact pose, one hand raised, head tilted just so, and you can type for an hour and still get someone almost right but not quite. Language is wonderful at what? A fox, a red jacket, golden light. It is terrible at precisely where and exactly this shape. You cannot say in words the exact angle of an elbow. So the whole craft of control is about adding new channels of instruction beyond the prompt. Instead of only telling the model what you want, you start showing it. The first way to show it is to hand the model a structural map. Not a finished image, a skeleton. Trace the edges of a reference photo into a clean line drawing. or extract a depth map near things bright, far things dark. Or for a person, a stick figure of the pose, shoulders here, elbows there. Then you tell the model, generate a brand new image, anything you like in texture and color and style, but keep this structure. Match these edges. Honor this pose. Now the model is no longer guessing the layout. The layout is given. It only has to invent the rest. The famous version of this is called ControlNet, and the trick inside it is genuinely elegant. You do not retrain the giant image model that costs a fortune and risks breaking it. Instead, you freeze it completely, make a small trainable copy of part of it, and wire that copy in through connections that start at exactly 0. 0 means the copy contributes nothing at first, so on day 1 the model behaves identically to before. Then, as it trains on pairs of pictures and their skeletons, those connections gently come alive, and the model learns to obey the map without ever damaging what it already knew. And one detail matters for honesty. ControlNet never sees your original photo. It sees only the skeleton you extracted from it, the edges, the depth, the pose, and steers an unchanged model with that scaffold. Which is why it is so powerful for generating fresh images that match a layout, but not yet the tool for editing a real picture while keeping its actual contents. Now suppose what you want to carry over is not the layout but the look, the vibe of a certain painting, the color world of one photo, or the hardest one, a particular person's face in scenes they were never in. Some things just cannot be said in words, so instead of telling, you show. You hand the model a reference image and say, make something new, but in the spirit of this. The clean way to do that is called an image adapter, and the most common one has a name you will run into, the IP adapter. Remember that a diffusion model already listens to your text through a channel called attention, where the words get to whisper to every part of the image as it forms. The adapter opens a second channel right beside it, a parallel lane carrying not words, but the reference picture, boiled down to its meaning. Now the image forming on the canvas listens to two voices at once, your text in one lane and your reference in the other, and you can dial how loud each one is. And the elegant part is how light it is. The giant base model is left completely frozen and untouched. The adapter is a tiny add-on, only about 20 million extra numbers, that grows that second lane onto it, the same theme you will see again and again today, a small clip-on steering an enormous model nobody retrained. And here is the crucial, easily missed point. That second lane does not paste in the reference's pixels. It carries its essence, its style, its identity as features, and lets the new image grow in that flavor. For faces specifically, tuned versions you will hear named, like Face ID and Instanted, distill the reference into a compact identity fingerprint, so the same person can appear recognizably in a brand new pose and place. Show, don't tell on its own dedicated wire. Everything so far still generates a fresh image. To truly edit your photo, you have to protect specific pixels, and that brings us to the move you will never unsee. It is called inpainting. You take your image and you paint a mask over just the region you want to change, a patch over the wall behind your subject. Everything outside the mask, the face, the jacket, the pose, you declare frozen, untouchable. Now remember the one move every diffusion model knows, walking noise toward a picture. You run that walk, but only inside the masked patch. You add fresh static to that region alone and denoise it back into something new, an ocean, say. And here is the clever part that makes it seamless. At every step of the walk, the model is allowed to look at the frozen pixels around the mask. So the new ocean is not painted in a vacuum. It is grown to agree with its surroundings, matching the light, the color temperature, the grain of the original, until the seam disappears. Push the mask outward past the edges of the photo instead of inward, and the very same trick invents more scene beyond the borders. That is outpainting, the way a portrait becomes a wide landscape. But here is the honest catch. The model is not recovering what was truly there. It is painting what is plausible given what it can see. Mask out a street sign and inpaint it, and you get a believable sign, not the real one. A confident, seamless guess. useful but a guess. Inpainting is powerful, but it makes you do work. You have to find the right region and carefully paint the mask yourself. And for years that was the deal. Want to change? Draw the boundary first. Then came the shift that put this in everyone's hands. What if you could skip the mask entirely and just say, in plain words, make it night? Remove the car. Give them a red jacket. No selecting, no painting, just an instruction, the way you would ask a person. This is instruct editing, and the conceptual leap is in what the model is conditioned on. A plain image generator listens to one thing, your description of a scene. An instruct editor listens to two things at once, your original image and a command about how to change it, and it learns the difference between those, what to alter and what to leave alone. The breakthrough that made this work was a clever bootstrap. There was no giant library of real before and after edits to learn from, so researchers built one synthetically. They used a language model to dream up editing instructions, and an image model to produce matching before and after pairs, hundreds of thousands of them, then trained an editor on that. The model learned in a single pass to read an image and an instruction together and produce the edited result. No mask, no retraining for each new picture. And this is the mode that in 2026 took over. The frontier image editors are now things you talk to. You give one a picture and say, put them on a beach, keep everything else, and it does, preserving the face well enough that it is still recognizably the same person. Then you say, now make it sunset, and it adjusts the light across the whole scene to match. It is a conversation, not a single shot. Tools like Google's Nano Banana Pro and Black Forest Labs' Flux family lead this wave, and the names will keep changing. But the way of working, just talking to your image, is here to stay. One thing is worth pausing on because it is the clearest sign of progress. For a long time, asking an AI to put readable words inside a picture, a label on a product, a sign on a shop, gave you melted, dreamlike gibberish. The best editors now render clean, correct text on command in many languages. That came from the models getting genuinely better at understanding the instruction and the layout together, almost reasoning about the edit before making it. One honesty note. The exact internal recipe of a model like Nano Banana Pro is not public, so we describe what it does, not a blueprint of how. What we can say is that editing has crossed a line. It used to be a careful, technical operation. It is becoming a thing you simply ask for. What it is not yet is a tool that keeps its promise perfectly every time. We will get to that. There is one more kind of control, and it answers a question the others cannot. What if the thing you want is not in the model at all? You want pictures of your specific dog in any pose, any scene. Or everything you generate to come out in one consistent, custom art style that no prompt word can name. The model has never seen your dog, so you teach it. There are 3 rungs to this ladder, and it is worth knowing which is which, because tutorials blur them constantly. The lightest, textual inversion leaves the whole model frozen and learns just one new word, a single fresh entry in its vocabulary that points at your subject. The heaviest, called Dream Booth, actually nudges the model's own weights to absorb your dog, with one essential safeguard. If you only ever show it your dog, the word dog collapses to mean just your dog and nothing else, so you keep reminding it what dogs in general look like. That safeguard is not optional polish. It is the thing that stops the model from forgetting. The sweet spot in the middle is a low-ra, the same low-rank adapter idea we met when specializing language models, now clipped onto an image model. You freeze the giant and train a small add-on, often just a few megabytes, on a handful of photos. The adapter learns just the essence of that one subject or that one style, bound to a made-up trigger word. Drop that word into any prompt and your dog can appear anywhere the model can imagine, on the moon, in a painting, in the snow. The big model supplies all the general knowledge of light and fur and worlds. The little adapter supplies the one specific thing it never knew. And because each adapter is small and separate, you can collect them, swap them, even stack a subject and a style together, like clipping a new lens onto a camera you already own. So let us be honest about where the seams still show, because they teach the whole episode in reverse. The residual hard problem is exactly the one we started with: coherence. Drop a new object into a photo and the AI can nail its shape and still get the world around it subtly wrong. A shadow falling the wrong way, a reflection that should be there and is not, light that does not quite match the rest of the room. And on a face, the deepest tension of all. The editor has to change one thing while keeping an identity perfectly intact, and a tiny drift, a slightly different cheek, a softened eye, and your brain instantly flags that it is not quite them. These were once gross failures, whole images mangled by a small edit. Now they are subtle ones, the kind you only catch on a second look. That is real progress, watching a young capability sand down its own rough edges. But this same power is exactly why the world is changing the rules around it. The more invisible an edit becomes, the more it matters whether a viewer knows an image was touched by AI at all. That is no longer just etiquette. Under the European Union's new AI rules, from August 2026, certain AI-generated or manipulated images and deepfakes must be disclosed as synthetic, with a related requirement for machine-readable marking phasing in later. The industry's answer is a quiet dual label, a record of provenance attached to the file, plus an invisible watermark woven into the pixels like Google's SynthID. Though be clear-eyed, those watermarks are robust, not unbreakable. They raise the cost of passing a fake off as real. They do not make it impossible. And the brightest line of all is about people. This technology can put words in a real person's mouth or a real face somewhere it never was, and on this channel that is firmly off limits. The only honest uses of face and voice synthesis are the ones a person actively consents to. Consent is the line. Editing someone into a scene they never agreed to is not a feature. It is a forgery, and increasingly an illegal one. So step back and look at the shape of the whole thing, because it is simpler than the pile of tool names suggests. There was only ever one move, the denoising walk that turned static into a picture, and everything today was a way to fence that walk in. And notice the single image underneath nearly all of it. One enormous, expensive painter, left frozen and untouched, with small control wires bolted onto the side, each one starting at 0, contributing nothing, then gently coming alive to add one new kind of instruction without ever damaging what the painter already knew. Words steer it, bluntly. A structure map hands it a skeleton, so layout is given, not guessed. A reference image whispers a look or an identity in on its own lane. A mask freezes the pixels you love and renoises only the patch you want changed. An instruction lets you skip the mask and just say what to change. And a small adapter teaches it one new subject or style it never knew. Underneath all of it, one quiet truth. Generation is free. It invents from nothing. Editing is a promise to change one thing and preserve all the rest, and the entire art is keeping that promise. The better AI gets at keeping it, the harder its edits are to see, and the more it matters that we say out loud when an image is not quite real. We started with pure static becoming a picture. Then we taught it to obey. Next, we let it move as we turn to how AI makes video.